The Star of Bethlehem, Decoded. Part 3, the Grand Conjunction Code. Welcome back, family. Today what we're going to do is we are going to develop out the code that I found in the heavens that is directly tied to the Magi, the Star of Bethlehem, and all of the signs that were associated during the time of the birth of Christ, and how that ties to our time today. We are going to focus on a 4-day and a 4-year code that is shown in many things that I've found, and it's unmistakable to me, and I'm hoping to develop this out in this series to present this information to you. Also, it is directly related to our time today, and we are going to see the fruition of this code in the heavens finalized on the 21st and 22nd of December. And so what I want to do today is I want to focus on the grand conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, and how during 7 BC that sign was a encoded star message that is directly tied to our 4 years from the grand conjunction in 2020. So we're going to break this down as quickly as possible. There is a lot of information here to jump into, so we're going to make this as quick as we can. This one may go over a little over 30 minutes. If it's more than 35, I'm going to have to cut it into part 4. We'll bring the rest of the stuff that we can't get to if we're behind on schedule. We'll put that in part 4, and that way these videos are easier to swallow, because there's a lot here. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look just back in our time here really quick, and we're going to explain to you something that I found back in 2020. If you're one of my subscribers and you don't know, I used to have a channel. Let's go ahead and pull this up really quick. I used to have a channel called CHADASH Culture, and I lost access to this channel excuse me, and that is why I developed the Tabernacle of the Bridegroom channel. But if we go back 4 years ago, you can see here that I have many videos that are populated about this 2020 great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And you can go and you can watch all of these videos, and you can see how I have been presenting this information for a very long time, and I have been hunting for these signs for much longer than my channel, CHADASH Culture. My Mazzaroth research goes back before 2000. I believe it was about 1990, between 95 and 97 is when I began my my star research with the Mazzaroth. And in the beginning, it was just bits and pieces here and there, um, because at that time that was really kicking against the flow of uh, the what the church believed, and it was at the very beginning of what I would consider the real star research. And so I've been doing this for a long time, and these encoded messages have come to me so that I can for myself I can learn how uh, these Mazzaroth signs are tied to time, and how this is all mathematical equations that are decodable. And so after years and years and years of research, I have been able to discover some things in the Mazzaroth that give me the tools that I need to decode what the heavens are speaking, and that helps the rest of the body to understand what's happening in the heavens, and um, it allows us to discover the encoded messages that are there for everyone, because the heavens declare the glory, and that's what we're looking for, is what are these heavenly declarations. So again, I found a 4-year code in the heavens that is associated with the Magi and their time, and it's associated with the Magi in this time, because anybody looking into the heavens for these signs, even if you're a beginner, you are in a different class, and you've gotten past the traditions of man, and now you are taking a step back in history. You're getting to the original story in the heavens, and once you can decode each of these houses and their associated deacons, um, then you can graduate to the point where you can understand um, what Psalms 19 is talking about, with the son being a bridegroom, and basically he's running a race through heaven, and as he passes through each of these houses, depending on what you see in the house, there's a different story. And so we can decode those stories, and I believe that all of those things are meant for us to be able to decode, to find the timing of the marriage, the birth, and all of these encoded messages in the scriptures that we find, and that we're also looking for in the heavens. So the first thing that we see here is in 2020. Let me pull up the time. In 2020, on the 15th of December, this is one of the very first signs that I saw during that time, that at that time it made me believe that this is uh, the marriage in heaven, because the bridegroom has exited his chamber. Mercury, the messenger, was inside of the hoopah, and the moon on the 15th in the early morning was uh, directly at the peak of the tabernacle, and we have Dembowska that is basically at the front of the the ark or the boat or the entrance of the tabernacle on the 15th. And if you look at the location of Dembowska, Dembowska is inside of the Golden Gate along with the sun. Well, Mercury is also there in the Golden Gate. The Golden Gate actually extends out to the star Antares, excuse me, and it also extends out on the opposite side as far as the wing or the cape, however you look at it, of Sagittarius. And so the center of the Golden Gate, it is the center of the Milky Way. But the sun, every year in our time, on the 15th of December, will exit the chuppah, or the marriage chamber. And that is when it passes the line down from the star Sabik and enters into what is technically called the Golden Gate. And that entrance into the heart of the Milky Way is giving us a message, and this happening on the 15th is exactly 4 days before another sign that we receive. We're going to bring that up later in the video. Right now what we're going to do is we're going to dig back into the study that we were doing from the very first video on the Coma supernova. But in this study, we are going to focus on the Jupiter-Saturn timeline of the grand, or what they call the great conjunctions. And we're going to develop out how this timing of the Magi and the following signs are presenting to us a 4-year and a 4-day code that it became unmistakable to me. And so the more that I found and the more that I discovered, and these discoveries are very powerful to me, and I'm hoping to be able to bring them out to the body for everyone to chew on. And if you have more to add, please bring that forward in the comment section. And if you have any questions, also present that to me in the comment section. But I want to be able to show beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have some type of message that is tied to this 4. And these codes can help lead us to exactly what we're looking for in the heavens. We're not presenting specific dates, we're just showing the signs. I believe that we will be led directly to the exit point if we keep focusing on the signs and not putting dates into this, because the more we say that something's going to happen on a very specific day and then it doesn't happen, the more we dig a hole for ourselves later when the time comes that we do have things correct. I have just been presenting the signs in this new channel so that I can eliminate the traps that are associated with trying to determine a rapture date. Because again, these signs are going to lead us to all of the things that we need to see. And if we keep looking up, we're going to get that message. So again, this is a 4-year encoded message. It is tied to 4 days, and it is deep in its presentation. So we're going to go ahead and start here. This is directly tied to the Jupiter-Saturn triple conjunction in 7 BC. We're going to go ahead and start here. This was written back in 2020, I believe, and they are presenting in the very beginning of this discussion about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, but then it's going to go into how it ties into all of the signs in 7 BC. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, this may take longer. I have to be able to present all of this information for everyone to completely grasp the depth of what's going on in these signs back during the time of the wisemen, and then also how it is directly tied to our time. So thanks for coming, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have. I have gained so much information about these signs. I've been led to things that I would have never found unless I was doing the research directly on this. So I'm going to put all the links in the description again, and I pray that you will take the time to go and read this in depth, because we're only going to again pick out just the meat. So here we go. If you have been paying any attention to the night skies lately, you may have heard that Jupiter and Saturn are visible and have been prominent in the heavens over the last couple months. This notable pair of gas giants has a long and distinguished history both in secular and sacred sky lore, and are due for their next normal union again on 12/21 and 12/22 of 2020 in Aquarius on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. This marks the first Jupiter-Saturn conjunction since May of 2000, and the closest Jupiter-Saturn conjunction since 1623, with only 0.1 of a degree of separation. In the previous union 20 years prior, in December 1603, Johannes Kepler saw a regular union of Jupiter and Saturn, also named a great conjunction, since it's the union of the 2 largest planets in our solar system. This was followed by a massing of Mars with Jupiter-Saturn. When all 3 planets were close together in the sky, Kepler calculated that a similar union took place in 7 BC. This 7 BC conjunction was a triple union through Jupiter and Saturn were not more than a degree apart. As we may have seen in recent national media, the current Jupiter-Saturn union is called the return of the Christmas star, marking the birth of Christ. But this is the kind of confusion that specifically needs to be avoided. If we are to understand what really happened with the so-called Star of Bethlehem, Jupiter-Saturn triple unions also mark both the birth of Abraham and Moses, setting the stage for the birth of Christ. Okay, I'm going to say that again. There was a triple union of Jupiter and Saturn marking the birth of Abraham and Moses. Okay, so as we view the event leading up to and beyond the Bethlehem star, we find the vital role played by the unions of Jupiter and Saturn in marking the birth of Christ, keeping in mind that the promised seed, Jesus Christ, had to be fully human as a son of Adam, a son of Abraham, and a son of David. During this holiday season, those of us who realize that Christ was not born on December 25th wonder if there's any biblical significance to the remembrance of the birth of Christ at this time of year. Since much of the information on this blog and website shows proof of Christ's birth on September 11, 3 BC, our certification that the Magi did not arrive in Jerusalem until December of 2 BC, as the Gospel of Matthew records. Okay, so we're going to talk about this really quick. The reason I'm using this study and this information is because it most closely aligns with all of the research that I've been doing for over 10 years when it comes to the Magi. And these signs have been broken down by a lot of people in history. But I don't believe a lot of people have put together all of the dots. There's what I call segregation of information. So some people think it's this, some people think it's that, and a lot of people can't come to agreements because they're trying to point out a very specific sign. And unfortunately, the Star of Bethlehem was not a single sign, but a culmination of events. And a lot of people get confused because they're looking at the word star of Bethlehem and they don't understand the ancient language, which is that planets were actually called wandering stars. And if we look at the culmination of all of the signs during the time of 7 BC, we see a very specific encoded message. We can go really deep into that message with all of the ancient lore, but that's for a whole nother video. Basically, the signs are associated with Jupiter because Jupiter is the king planet, and Jupiter is also associated with birthright, and Jupiter basically deposed Saturn, and this goes back into history, and it has a lot of deep encoded information also, but that information is for another time and another video. What we're doing here is we're trying to present this 4-year code, and if we look at Christ's birth as September 11th, and we go back to 7 BC, during that time we have the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction. We're looking at a 4-year encoded message because there's a triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 7 BC, and then there's a triple conjunction of Jupiter and Regulus in 3 BC. And so we cannot mistake that there are 3 signs that are trying to present a story to us, and this is unmistakable when when you're looking at the heavens and you're trying to determine when events are going to happen. And these magi would have known all of these encoded messages that were passed down from Daniel, and then ended up becoming passed down to all of the magi in the kingdoms, and that's how Zoroaster at that time would have uh, taught the Magi in that area, and that would have been passed down to Balaam, and then we have the scriptural prophecy of Balaam, but that prophecy actually did not come from Balaam. It actually came from Zarathustra, which in Greek is Zoroaster, and he uh, learned all of that information essentially from Daniel, and was able to make those encoded star messages because he understood the heavens, and as a Magi priest, he would have been deeply trained in the signs of the Mazzaroth. So we are now going to develop out more information that is directly tied to these two signs, 7 BC and 3 BC. So, what star did the Magi see that led them to Jerusalem? It was the king planet Jupiter, that in 7 to 6 BC was involved in a triple conjunction of Jupiter-Saturn in Pisces. And for those of you who know, Pisces is the two fish. And so we're really talking about the house of Israel. It is a direct sign to the house of Israel. If you are a follower of Christ and you are grafted into this house, and then you become one of the fish. So we see here that served as a celestial prelude to the triple conjunction of Jupiter and Regulus in 3 and 2 BC, marking the birth of Jesus Christ. The Magi were astronomer kings from the east land of Persia, who, upon observing Jupiter's movements, got started in their intrepid journey across about 900 miles of hostile desert territory towards Jerusalem. They did not arrive until December of the next year, when King Herod organized a meeting with his chief priests and teachers of the law. Now we see here there are scriptures that are directly tied to all of this, and we can read in the scriptures that this story was already given to us. As the record denotes, King Herod was not interested in worshiping Jesus, since he had all of the children 2 years and under killed in Bethlehem. He would not have done this unless the exact time the star appeared to the Magi was close to the start of this 2-year time frame. The Gospel also tells us that the Magi found a young child, a Padawan, in the house, not a newborn or brephos, in a manger or inn when they arrived. This is why God warned the Magi of Herod's treachery in a dream to avoid Herod and take a different route to return to their homeland. Okay, so we see here that these signs were associated with the king planet, and we read in the story in Matthew how these signs in uh, Pisces were assigned to essentially Israel, and us being grafted into Israel, it's also assigned to us. So let's keep going on this. We're definitely going to have to break this up into another part, but I want to keep going until about 35 minutes, and then we'll come back. And we'll do that today, and that way it's easier to bring this information out. The king planet Jupiter guided the hearts of the Magi to be among the first Gentiles to recognize the only begotten Son of God. As it halted its retrograde motion over Jerusalem and Bethlehem, a few miles to the south, the banner. Now let's stop there really quick. This is an assumption, because a lot of the information that came down to us from history was corrupted. And we're going to bring that up later in a later part of this series, but just know that that the Bethlehem story is about the shepherds, and the Magi were not associated with Bethlehem. The Magi were associated with the Nazarenes and Nazareth, which was a small town. At that time, it wasn't even a city yet. It was just a small town of Nazarenes, Essenes. And so there's discrepancies in this story because things that are passed down to history were discombobulated and combined, and a lot of that had to do with the art back at that time. Everything was shown into one picture instead of multiple pictures. So there's a lot of conjecture about this Star of Bethlehem and the Magi, because it really should be the Star of Nazareth, because they can prove that Christ had left Bethlehem, and that they were only there for a very short period of time to participate in tabernacles, and that they believed that Christ was born during tabernacles, and that he was anointed on the 8th day of tabernacles, which is the first day, and there's a lot of information that goes into that itself. We could do multiple videos just on that alone. But we want to make sure that people know that there are discrepancies in the location, and I do not believe that the Magi went to Bethlehem. I believe that they went to Nazareth, which wasn't called Nazareth at that time. It was just a small town of Nazarenes, and ended up becoming the city of Nazareth. So let's go ahead and take a step back. The king planet Jupiter guided the hearts of the Magi to be among the first Gentiles to recognize the only begotten Son of God as it halted in retrograde motion over Jerusalem and Nazareth, a few miles to the north. The banner heading this blog shows the skies with Jupiter standing still in Virgo over Bethlehem. We'll just say that for now. We're just going to follow this through, but know that there's all kinds of proof that we can bring up at a later time showing this information. During the winter solstice, when the sun, the light of the world, was also standing still, The word solstice means sun stands still, and it is not a coincidence that Jupiter, the king planet, was standing still over Bethlehem, marking Jesus' birthplace, while the sun, as the light of the world, stood still also. What a joy and thrilling time this was for the Magi to follow with procession the wandering stars or planets as the Creator set them in their orbits and celestial stations. To find the promised seed, Jupiter, as his star, led the Magi to the dawning day of the Messiah, opening a way through the principles of biblical astronomy to the Redeemer, the Lord Jesus Christ.